Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Webflail, the show where we asked successful webflowers about their 3 biggest failures of their creative careers so far, what they have learned from them, and how these failures have changed their processes, practice, and in some cases, even their personality. I am your host, Jack Redley, and for today's episode, I am joined by Harry Roper, the managing director of Imaginary Space, the web design agency for fashion and beauty. So, welcome to Webflail, Harry.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on, and thanks to everyone watching live with us. If you guys have got any questions, feel free to put them in, and we'll deal with those at the end. So, Harry, first of all, for anyone that's watching now and doesn't know who you are or hasn't actually seen your YouTube channel, which I must admit is very, very good, everyone, you should check that out after this episode. Tell us a little bit about your Webflow journey and how you kind of found Webflow.
Sure. I'll try and give the short end because it's quite a long story. But essentially, my name's Harry Roper, for anybody who doesn't know, as Jack has said. And I run an agency called Imaginary Space. We primarily work with fashion and beauty companies. We use Webflow and Shopify to build out solutions. How did I get into Webflow? So I was working for an agency in London. Enjoyed that, decided to leave, went back to my home county in Devon, which is in the southwest of the UK by the beach, and working in a hotel. One day the staff were really rude to me and I said, fuck this. And I threw in the towel. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I then was sat around and I was thinking, I could get another job in a hotel, but I'd learned all this cool stuff in this agency, how to sell, how to write proposals, stuff like that. And I was like, I'll make websites. I know nothing about it, but I'll make websites and I'll start selling websites because I'd always had a little bit of an interest in them. And I thought to myself, and I always say this to everyone, I thought to myself, yeah, £500 a website. I'll make one a day. I'll be a millionaire before I know it. And like, you soon realize how hard it is with the client, giving feedback and like process and stuff. And it was a really interesting time. This was back in 2018. And around 2018 Christmas time, I was talking to my friend and I saw this ad on YouTube or Google, wherever it was, and it was for Webflow. And I looked at it, and at the time I'd been using Elementor and WordPress, which I know a lot of people love as well. And I was like, this is a really cool tool. I'm going to keep learning it. And we did our first client project in it. We carried on doing client projects in it. And I just said to myself, this is the tool that I want to be using. I don't want to be using Elementor. I was just building our first 2 websites in Elementor and WordPress was like, there's limitations here. Whereas like Webflow, there is, but not really. You can do almost everything that your mind imagines. And I think as creatives, like having no boundaries in that kind of sense is like really helpful. So that's pretty much the short end of the story anyway.
Wow. Okay, then. And so you started documenting your journey on YouTube. Tell us a little bit about that and why you're doing that.
Sure. So it was actually a suggestion of my girlfriend at the time who said that she said, you love making little Instagram videos. You love telling everybody your story. You love doing talks. Why don't you just start a YouTube series? Because she was watching vlogs at the time or something. And I thought, okay, I'll put a video up. I've done videos on YouTube before, but never really anything serious. I'll put a video up and I'll see how it does. And needless to say, the first video now is my most viewed video. But at the time, I think I got like 100 views, and I was like, fuck, there's actually like people who are willing to listen to me speak nonsense into a camera about what I'm doing. And then I realized actually, being a bit like, having a bit of like humility, I guess, and just understand that like there are people who are going through the same situation as me. There are people who aren't doing some of the stuff I was doing. I found like using Coda, which is my kind of organization tool, like there aren't people using that. Oh, wow. Okay. So actually I really want to show people this tool because I think it's really beneficial for your process. And then there was like, some people were writing comments and saying like, I'm struggling with sales. How can I improve that? And, I've had calls with people like you, Jack, with other subscribers as well. And for me, the biggest motivator for doing it is just like hearing people say like, yeah, I use your system and I really, really, really benefit from it. There's a guy called Daniel, shout out to him, who uses a meeting tool that I made for myself. And like, I didn't ever think somebody would use it. I just put it out there for people to use. And he runs a very successful, 6-figure agency. And that's just so cool to me to know that I've benefited somebody's like life like that. So to answer your question, like a more rounded out way, I think it's like, I want the 19-year-old version of me that was lost and didn't know what to do to be able to watch my videos and at least gain something from it. And it helps them in their journey, I guess.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel a lot of affinity with that, just because I think I'm doing Webflail for very similar reasons, like to help the lost me a few years ago when I was starting my freelance journey with Webflow. But it seems you are a lot less lost now, Harry. Where is Imaginary Space at currently? How many employees do you have, and what projects are you excited about at the moment?
That's a really cool question. I'd love to hear a bit about like why you started Webflow as well. I don't know if you've told your live stream or podcast that yet, but
I haven't yet. But let's ask you the question first, and then maybe we can come on to that.
Okay, cool. So I have 2 employees. We've got Amy in South Africa, and we've got Leo, who is in Buenos Aires with me in Argentina. So Leo and I are doing the digital nomad thing. Amy's living in South Africa. Soon she's going to come and join us and do the digital nomad thingy as well. So that'll be cool.
Wow.
We're a bit like a pirate ship then, all traveling around together. What projects am I most excited about at the moment? We're working for a really cool brand who does retail outfits, a long-standing client of ours called Bubble Hat. And we're building them some landing pages at the moment. And yeah, just really killing it. They're flying, they're earning some good money. And that's always like a really positive thing for us to know that like the projects that we're creating are like producing the results, like I think that's really important. Something that I skipped out on when I was younger, which was like just make something look good rather than focusing actually on like the business results. And like they've had some really interesting conversations from that. So I think it's always fun, especially when you're watching people use the website as well through like tools like Hotjar, and you can see people interacting with your design and learn stuff from the data and everything. Like it's good. It's good to see people interacting with your product.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing to create something and it's been months in creation and then put it out there to the world and be like, oh shit, like people are using this and people are reacting to it, and getting comments and stuff on social media is crazy. I find it's so cool that you can connect with people in that digital sphere like that. But to answer your question about why Webflail started, essentially I have found that there's a hell of a lot. I feel like there's a hell of a lot of information about the technicals of Webflow using the actual platform itself. What is REMs, EMs, how to do, Flexbox, GSAP, whatever. All that information is out there and very, very clear to see. And there's also a hell of a lot of people on Twitter and, wherever else talking about how great they are, what the amazing projects that they're doing, what they're earning. And it's not to bash the people that are celebrating their wins at all. I just found that there was, in my head, a little bit of a disconnect between, I know how to use this product and platform, but how do I get to, a freelancer who can comfortably do this for a living? So I wanted to focus more on the soft skills of Webflow and freelancing, building an agency. Hence, I want to speak to people like you who, have kind of pushed through failures and mistakes and overcome these things to get to a place where this is their full-time living and they're really enjoying what they're doing. So I want to just enable young Webflowers by giving them the proof that pushing through failures can lead to success. And I think that's why I'm trying to ask you vulnerable questions and people like you. So yeah.
That's fantastic. I think that's a great thing to be doing. So yeah, keep doing it, Jack. It's a great thing to focus on. It's definitely giving back to the community. So
Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's plenty of templates out there and there's plenty of technical advice, but
there's nobody telling us their failures, you know?
well, I just want to dig, and find the grit in the oyster and
That's so
work out
nice.
why these people are great.
I think that's
So,
great because, like, sorry, I just wanted to say, I think that's great because I think a lot of the time nowadays, like, we're all very aware of how, like, there's these false images of people doing really well on social media, etc. And I think, like, by showing people the kind of raw side, you can help people understand that it's not just them that are going through that situation, right? Like, we've all been through it, and we can share those experiences. And if there's something's gone really wrong on a client project and they're feeling really sad, like, they should know that we've probably all had that client project where it's gone really bad, and it's just one of
right.
many.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the people that so far that I've interviewed that are all quite successful Webflowers, successful in the sense that they're doing this as their full-time job. They've got clients, approaching them every week. They have some pretty amazing failures, and I think there's a correlation between the depth of failures that people have had and the amount of mistakes they've made, and obviously the learnings that they've taken from those to get to where they are. And I'm trying to, I guess, normalize failure and extract those learnings. That's kind of the gist. But I appreciate you giving me the thumbs up as a veteran YouTuber and content creator. So yeah, I'm sure we can do some cool things together maybe after this as well.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I dropped that in there. But let me go on to your failures now, because I feel like we have teed up these 3 failures and people are like, okay, cool, Jack, Harry, what are these failures? So let's talk about scaling too fast. This is your first failure. What does scaling too fast, why do you consider that a failure?
Sure. I just got really pumped up at the beginning of this year. For context, it was mainly just me until last year when I decided that I wanted to build a business and an agency much more than just freelancing by myself. I think some people are happy to just be them and keep going. I know some great people who do that and they earn a lot of money doing it just them. And there's some people who actually want to build like community, business, systems, processes, all of that stuff. And they want to have like a team and they want to nurture talent, nurture people. And I was so much more the latter. So that was a big context switch for me. And I think with the beauty of being able to hire people at the beginning of the year, this year, I just got a bit crazy with freelancers and stuff like that, I think, to be honest, Jack. And we have Amy who does a lot of our business development and admin and stuff, and she's great. We also have Leo doing a lot of our other stuff, but you sometimes forget that people need like nurturing and systems and processes to help them work. And definitely something that we had to spend the last 4 months kind of developing was like, what do people actually do inside imaginary space? Like, what is their actual like daily role? Like, how do they manage their calendar? And because I'm so used to being that solo guy who just understands stuff and can just put stuff in his calendar, can do meetings, can do this. I have like 5 years experience now. You sometimes forget that other people don't have that. And in that case, you're trying to sprint towards this finish line up at the top, but actually you realize you need to do a lot more at the ground level before you get there. So like, I definitely hired some people I shouldn't have hired this year. And because of that, I had to have some very awkward conversations very quickly where I said, unfortunately, like we can't move forward with you or whatever. And I've just kept it now to just us 3. So Leo, Amy, and I in the agency. And I think that's a really big lesson that you should definitely think about. Like, do you have the revenue to be able to support the people that you're hiring? Do you have the systems and processes in place so that from day one they can start the work? Because there's nothing more stressful than like managing a team, but also trying to deliver on client work as well. And like, you've got to find time for both, and there's only 8 hours in the day, or if you do crazy 12 hours in the day, then there's only 12 hours in the day, so.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So essentially, you in your head had an idea of where you wanted your business to be, but in reality, you hadn't got the systems and processes in place to actually make that, vision a reality. Is that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, to support it. And as well as that, like, you don't want to just rely on people, especially if they're junior, to just go off and do stuff. There needs to be systems like reviews in place. So you're doing weekly reviews with people. You want to be focusing on um, how are they performing? Do you have KPIs in place? Do you have OKRs? All these like weird business terms that you've heard before and you've never really bothered with because you don't need it personally, but all of a sudden you realize I do need to track staff's performance, and I do need to realize, like, are they growing? Are they doing the right thing? And do they, as well as that, like, not just putting it on the staff and saying like they should be doing the right job, but like, are you as a leader supporting them in the way that you should be, and helping them out?
That's really interesting. So for anyone that's watching now who's like, do I want to be a freelancer or do I want to build an agency? You obviously realized while you were freelancing that you were like, you know what, I actually prefer managing people. Can you just give some advice to anyone that's watching now who's like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a freelancer or build an agency?
Yeah, sure. I think the question I asked myself at the end of the day was, do I always want to be designing and developing websites, or do I prefer building systems, processes, and doing the sales? And for me, it was a very clear-cut answer. I love designing and developing websites, but the thing that really gets me excited is when I have a really good sales call, or when I make a new system or process, or when I make a YouTube video. And you have to just very quickly realize what are your strengths, but also like, yeah, what's your passion as well? Is your passion designing stuff? If it is, go hardcore on the design. But I think it's also a time thing, Jack. Like, definitely, if you're a Webflower and you're building websites for clients, having 2 or 3 years experience just doing that solo is great. And I think, again, that kind of ties into the whole scaling too fast thing. Like, there was definitely a point where, like, at the very beginning of my journey, when I was just 1 year into website design, wanting to become an agency straight away without actually understanding what is our process, what is the system that gets a client from A to Z, and how do we do stuff. You need to have a clear cut understanding of that before you can pass that process on to somebody else for them to do it.
So you'd say freelance, know all the different stages of actually handling a client, getting a sale, sending them a contract, doing all of that, and then setting up an agency once you've got that experience. You think that's a better route to go?
Yeah, make that decision then after you've done all of that. Like, do you prefer, and as well as that, test, like, bring in some freelancers, get them to do little bits of a project, see if you enjoy managing them, see if you enjoy getting them to do the work. And if, like, you find you do and you prefer them doing the work than you, then that's, for me, like, the answer's there. Then you understand that actually you're a business owner more so than a freelancer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I find handling clients difficult enough. So handling clients and, managing a team, I think I'd want to rip my tongue out. But interesting that you talk so much about systems and processes. Say I was a freelancer and I wanted to actually set up an agency. I'd done a few projects and I was like, you know what, I'm ready to go. What are the 3 key systems or processes that you would say an agency owner should focus on first?
3 key processes that an agency should work on first. Onboarding your clients. So having an onboarding process where they understand exactly what the system is, where they're going to be at, and all the deliverables. Having a system/process in terms of managing your staff, so task manager, some sort of wiki where you keep the process in, and then on top of that as well, so you've onboarded a client, you're doing the management and stuff like that. I think it's always good, as I said, I mentioned having that wiki. It's always good to document how to launch a website, because if I'm ill, you can pass that to a staff member, and it's really, really, really key. Even for yourself, you would be surprised how much headache I reduced and brain thinking by literally just having a bullet point list of all the things you do when you do a launch day. And by doing that and following that list, you remove all the thinking in here and you can just do. And when I did that, it was like the most relief giving shit ever. It was so good.
Yeah, that's so important, and I'd echo that for any freelancers that are watching. Even if you're like, I don't want to set up an agency, I would still recommend documenting your processes, because there are often times with the client, with any client, it doesn't have to be a big client, but you might realize that actually your process is not as tight as you thought it was. There are mistakes throughout. It might be miscommunication, not setting clear boundaries with your client. There might be discussion about scope. And if those type of things come up, then go back to your process list that you have documented and change it. And even if it's just you in the business, I highly, highly recommend everyone listening to this or watching this do that if you haven't already.
If I could just say as well, I think Carly's just put down that comment saying it's not a bad idea to work for an agency for a while as well. If you want to hack to find out what a process is really quickly, like do what I did, and I can see you've done the same as well, Jack. Like go work for an agency for at least 1 year. I think 1 year is the perfect amount of time to absorb all of that information, and then you can use that to start your process and your own journey. And I always say to people, like the biggest, maybe you'll be able to agree, Jack, like the biggest benefit to my career was doing like a year in an agency, learning everything that I did, how to present yourself in front of clients and stuff like that, and then taking all of that, just executing by yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much that you can just duplicate for an agency and just duplicate what they do and just do it for yourself. And if an agency that's been around for a few years has a process that works, likelihood is that's a pretty good process for you to do. They'll have worked on probably 100 projects over those few years, and so they've probably got their systems down if they're a decent agency. So yeah, 100% recommend that. It is absolutely fast tracked my freelancing, probably by years, especially because the other thing about it is that you're learning from people that have been doing design and dev and handling sales calls, etc., for years as well. So it's not just they've got documentation, that you can also just see it in action. So you talked about sales there, and that's being one of the biggest things that you enjoy. I think that's one of the biggest things that freelancers struggle with, these soft skills that we talked about at the start of this. What is the key to having a really good sales call, in your opinion?
Being human, I think, like having a conversation with them outside of the actual thing you're bidding for. So how did your day go? What are you interested in? Like all of these things that people may consider informal. I literally did a talk with one of my guys yesterday, and I just said, like, meetings are great because when you have a meeting with someone, at the beginning you can have an informal chat, at the end you can have an informal chat, and in the middle you do the business. And I think by trying to be friendly, make friends with the person you're selling to, rather than just literally saying, I'm going to build your website and it's going to cost you this much, Instead, like, how did the business start? Oh, that sounds really interesting. Like, what's the story behind how you and your co-founder met? At the end of the day, people buy from people they like. So it's really important to make sure that you present yourself in a friendly way and make people feel comfortable and trust you. I think that's the main thing. If somebody trusts you, then they're definitely going to buy from you. And I would say the other part is the confidence side of things as well. Having confidence in your pricing, your ability, your skills. If you have client results, like really just appreciate that you got that client those results, even if it's just one sale. You got them one sale, and like that's a really big thing to celebrate, but also to take into your next sales meeting and say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, like I got this client that result, and I can very easily get you that result as well. The only other tip I could give is I learned everything I know about sales from Christo, the future. I'm sure everybody knows him by now, but I was very lucky to find him in 2018 when he was a bit smaller. And he has so much value in terms of like how to present yourself and stuff like that. And then apart from that, just experience. You've got to, when you got to do sales calls, you got to do calls. Get on. If you don't have much experience talking to people, go to Lunch Club. That's a great networking tool that connects you with random people, like Jack and I are doing right now. Not in a live format, but will allow you to talk to other people around the world. I had a very nice call early this morning with a woman called Jenny from Texas, of all places. So it was really nice, and it just gets you in that flow of being able to talk to people.
That's some really, really interesting advice. I would 100% second the fact that when you take a genuine interest in the human being that is on the call, forget the project, like just saying, how did you start? What are you interested in? What are you like? Just be a human who cares about another human. That in itself, like, seems to, for me, completely change the game, because I used to be like, hi, yeah, I see you want a website. How many pages? And it's just like, just fuck that. You'll talk about the website because that's the reason for your call, but acknowledge them as a human and say, how are you? Like, what are you interested in? What's your project beyond the website itself? And then the other thing I would also add to Harry's comments there is that if you feel comfortable to walk away from that sale, like if you have the confidence to say, you know what, I actually don't think I'm the best person. I don't think I'm the most appropriate freelancer or agency for your project. By having the confidence to say, you know what, this actually isn't for me, or this is for me, having that choice, that confidence goes such a long way. If you are desperate in any sense, if you imagine going to a nightclub and someone really, really wants to get with you, you can smell that is like really puts you off, right? Like, they're a bit serious. Like, if you apply that same kind of logic to a client, desperation, you can smell it. Like, if you really, really want that client project, that client is just going to be like, no thanks.
It's the same as dating, right? If you blow up their phone, if you blow up their email with follow-ups.
You're not messaging me back, question mark, question mark. Like, okay, well, you might as well just say goodbye to that project, right?
Oh yeah.
And I actually think like dating kind of logic to clients actually really, really helps. Well, it helped me think about the client call in a completely different manner. Instead of trying to get a sale, I was actually trying to take a genuine interest in that person and and care for them beyond me getting the project, right? So yeah, just to add to Harry's advice there, but I completely second everything you've just mentioned. Agreeing to work that you can't do, whether that's budget or just pure skills. Can you talk to us about failure number 2?
Sure. Again, like context, it's like beginning of my career. If we go back to there, and you're young, you're hungry, you want some money. Everybody wants some money, and I wanted some money. And I think when you're in that position, when you don't have a lot of work coming in and your finances aren't looking great, and maybe you're at home and your friends are going on holidays and you're not, and you really, really want some work, somebody comes along and they say, yeah, I'm happy to pay you like some really good money, but I want you to make this. And you think about it and you don't really do too much in-depth analysis or whatever. And you just look at it and you look, I can design it. I'm going to do it for you. And you say, yes, you do the contract, you do whatever. And for all the client knows, you're going to deliver on that project and you're going to do it. But you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the project, and you realize very quickly, oh my God, this is way above my head, or this is too technical. And I think for me personally, the biggest mistakes I've made is not from a design perspective, but where I haven't fully looked into the development perspective of things. So I've agreed too much in terms of like technical ability. And therefore, like when it actually comes to developing the product, either the price of developing it is crazy, or like the actual amount of work or time that it takes is a lot. And you can really, really, really shoot yourself in the foot very quickly there, where you have a very upset client on one scale of the end because you haven't delivered fully what you've done, but at the same time you have done a lot of work. So you're in this horrible place of, do I give them all the money back and just go, or do I still bill for the amount of time that I put in? Like I've made something for them and it works in some capacity. And that was a big lesson for me. Like I'm not a programmer. So if a client now asks for something that's very technical and beyond Webflow's capability, I go see my guy Haider in Pakistan. Shout out to him, who's a very talented developer. And I say, Haider, can we do this? And he usually says yes, but it's going to cost this and it's going to take this long. And I go, great. I'll go tell the client, and then I do. Whereas in the past, it would be like me just saying yes to the client just to get the deal through the door, just to get the money in the bank, and then going to someone like Haider or someone different and saying, can we do this? And they say, yeah, but it's going to cost this and take this long. And I think that's where a lot of the stress would come from. So there's a great British saying, I think, which is just like the 3 Ps, which is piss, poor, planning. And that's usually the reason that most projects can go downhill very quickly.
Yeah. Okay. That's really fascinating. So if someone was watching now and is at the start of their Webflow journey and someone approaches them saying, hey, I want an e-commerce site. I've got 50 products. Each of them has 3 different sizes and 10 colors. I mean, at what point as a hungry young freelancer do you say, you know what, I think I can do this, versus there's no way I can do this, I should just say no? Because I think there's a confidence issue at play as much as an abilities issue. What do you think about that?
I had a great client back in the day when I was first starting out who helped me out a lot because I would just go in and I would do the work and I'd be like bullet mode, and then I would never really take time to step back and think about it. And that's something that he taught me. I'm very grateful for him to be that kind of client who will look past your kind of mistakes and help you out. And he was a very good designer from a very big company. And he just said, Harry, stop a minute, just take a step back. I want you to think about this a bit more and then go in and do the work. And we had a great relationship after that because I took on his advice and started doing it. And I think if you do the same as a young freelancer, just take a step back, open up your Notion document, open up your Coda document, your Google Doc, whatever, write out everything in terms of technical delivery, design delivery, how long you think each bit's going to take. Talk to great people like Jack, myself on Twitter, anyone. Emily Gordano, our mutual friend who runs the Great Designing podcast, she does a weekly group. Join that. Ask freelancers, ask people, do you think these estimates are good? Once you've got those estimates together and you know that you can deliver it, do it. If you can't for any reason, maybe there's a bit that you can do, and the other bit you hand off to an agency, a freelancer, somebody else's company. I've definitely had help recently where we couldn't deliver on the marketing side of things. So we would do the design and dev, and then we've just handed off that client project to a marketing company. And we have an agreement where they give us a slice of the pie each month for passing on the client. We don't have to deal with any of the headache, and it's been a really good relationship. So see if you can find relationships like that where you can get help, but you still get paid a little bit for passing the client on. And it's like mutually beneficial for both people.
Yeah, agreed. And to come back to, passing over work to people that have expertise, I would recommend someone that's starting out to try and work out what they enjoy and what they really, really want to get good at. Like, obviously, a website is marketing and sales tool. So, you might be like, I fucking love SEO. Well, then maybe get someone else to do the design of the website, because you might not necessarily be as interested in that part of the website, and that might prevent you from having a really good client relationship with someone if you can't actually facilitate all the different parts of the project. Because frankly, developing a Webflow website, you do need to have a pretty good understanding of various different concepts. So I'd recommend just trying to work out, like, in the first few projects that you do, try and work out what you really, really like doing and want to be fucking good at, and make sure that that's your bread and butter, rather than being like a Chinese buffet of, yeah, I can do marketing and I'll do you some IG templates and I'll do you a bit of branding. I think that's where you can get in hot water.
What do you really enjoy, Jack, and want to just get really good at?
I love the design rather than the dev. I actually work for an agency at the moment called Crafted Studio. Shout out to Dexter Washington. He's a hero. He's taught me a lot. But recently there was a project that was quite technical, and I was like, yeah, I can do it. And I couldn't. And I had to come back. I had to crawl back to Dexter and say, hey, I thought I could develop this. And I couldn't. And then, he had to get another freelancer to come in and help out with the project, who was, far better technically than I was. But it was really, really humbling, because I was like, yeah, I can do design, I can do dev, I can do it. And actually, I realized in that project that I couldn't. I simply couldn't. And really, really getting good at a particular part of the client process, whether that's design, dev, marketing, beyond that. I think it's really, really important to work that out. But that comes from experience. So any of these mistakes that have happened, they've come with great learnings. So
Absolutely. I think it's about having the awareness to understand that it was a mistake, but the mistakes are okay, and to learn from that. As you said, if you can get that kind of mindset, you're flying.
Yeah, but I think you need to have mistakes to have that kind of humility and that self-awareness which is ironic, because you'd save yourself a lot of headaches if you had that humility, but you can't really without mistakes, if that makes sense. And coming on to your third failure then, overpromising. It sounds quite interlinked. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, like, again, young, hungry, you want to do everything. You said it quite well, like offering to do like branding, website, social media, packaging, all for like $3,000 is just like, you're going to kill yourself trying to deliver on that project. But at the same time, when you're pitching for your biggest amount of money ever in your life, you're thinking, what are these little add-ons that I can put in as a young guy or girl to get that project over the line? So you promise the moon in some sense. And it's a mistake that you make, I think, when you're younger, because you don't really have the experience of knowing how long stuff takes. So you just say, yeah, it'll take me 3 days, Jack, I'll just do it, when in reality, like, these things, they take time. Each different deliverable has its own set process, and you need to know that process. You need to have a system for it. So we definitely, at the beginning, there was just one particular project that when you sent me those questions kind of made me think of answering with that kind of answer, which was that we did do a website, branding, signage, etc., all for under $10,000, which, looking at it nowadays, if an agency was to do all of that work, I'm sure they would charge 20, 30, 40, even $50,000 to do all of it. And although we did deliver and it was a really good project and really successful, you do kind of look at the end of those projects at all the bits that you did, and you do think, oh, I did a lot of work there and I didn't really get paid what I want, or it took so long that the amount of money that they gave you, yeah, you survived, but you didn't make any profit, or you didn't have any extra money in the bank then to keep you safe for those months where you're not able to do sales and you're doing the work. I think, again, like, by not overpromising, by actually underpromising in some sense, like, clients are happier because you don't go and promise them the world. You promise them like 10%, and then if you deliver 20%, they get a real kick out of that. And I think it's definitely something I'm still learning as an agency owner, that even with like staff, like under promising staff and then over delivering to them is like a really big win. And yeah, I think it's something that you always learn. You're always learning.
Yeah, definitely. And to add to that, with clients that say, "Oh, I want the project done really, really quickly. Can we get it done by? Do you work weekends? Can you get it done by Sunday
Oh
Eve
God.
or something?" I definitely think it's worth budgeting extra time as well as extra budget to the project. To make sure that one, you are actually profitable and that you're not some kind of pixel pushing slave. And the other thing is that if you think you can get it done in 3 days, but you budget a week, then you can deliver the project early, which is far better. It reflects far better on you as a freelancer for the client, than being like, I think I can probably get it done in 3 days, and then working pedal to the metal to get it done by that deadline. So yeah, I definitely echo what Harry says there.
You can't create great work, I don't think, under pressure as well. You just push out rubbish and you rush it, and you have to ask yourself then, are you somebody who values quality or quantity? And I think that's another entire conversation to have, but it can really define where you take your business and your career and kind of what you build at the end of the day.
That's a really interesting question, Harry, and I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you that exact question. Is your agency now focused on quality over quantity? Because it seems like as a freelancer at the start, you were like, all right, I'm going to bust out projects. I'm going to have so many systems. I'm just going to be super efficient and just, do small projects really, really fast. But it seems like now you've got a slightly different opinion. Is it quality over quantity for you now?
I think, yeah, as you said, like when I first started, I thought £500 a piece, ping, 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 money, money, money. But I realized that actually I really enjoy like creating projects that are like not worthy of going on awards, because I think like definitely you should focus on the client's result rather than winning a design award. But I really, really love those projects where like we have enough time to do a bespoke design, bespoke motion design, and really do like some core thinking about like what we're delivering. And I think those kind of things, you need a lot of time. So like a website with us can take anywhere between like 6 and 8 weeks to put together at the moment. But we really do focus on like that quality, including like user testing and all that sort of stuff. And for me, it's more fun. We could have been the agency that just did like £1,000, $1,500 Webflow websites and released them one a week. That's definitely something as well. And you do mass sales outreach, mass advertising, and you just become like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry out there who produces websites. But I guess like some part of it's like being different. Part of it's like building a brand. Part of it's being like this name where people go to you for quality websites. So you can be either, I think. I don't think it's bad to be one or the other, but you just have to figure out, I think what we've been saying a lot during this podcast is understanding like where you want to go and what you build. Or if you're interested in just building like a high volume agency, I think those can be really fun as well.
Yeah, it's figuring out who you are is the key to life. So I guess that's the root of every person's career, as well as just their overarching thing. Like, what do you want to spend your time doing on this planet, and then chasing that. But that does take time to figure out. Sorry, I went really deep there, completely unnecessarily. But yeah, I agree. Working out, how you want to operate as a business owner is going to be really important for your success, whatever your success looks like to you. Lauren asks, do you think it's okay to undercharge at the beginning when you're first starting out? Really good question, Harry.
Fantastic question. I'd love to hear what you think as well, Jack. But Lauren, like, I would say yes, because I started out at $750, £500 for a website. And what I would say is every time you do a website, add another $500 to $1,000 onto that price tag as you get each new client, and keep building your price up. But also, I think like you should also look at like what are others charging and maybe just undercut by like 10 or 20%. I think this kind of question, it really depends on like your skill, what sort of quality website you're pushing out. Because if you're just starting out and the quality of your websites aren't amazing to begin with, maybe charging $20,000 for a website is not the right way to go. And instead, like you undercharge so you can get it, and then get the experience. I know that sometimes experience is worth much more than the money. So yeah, I don't think though that you should be doing it for pennies. You should definitely still be earning some sort of money that keeps you safe or happy, or you can just go and buy dinner, to celebrate that you completed that project. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I would agree that. I mean, okay, I think the phrase undercharge is interesting because at the beginning, you are not going to be charging a lot because you do not have the experience under your belt to be charging 10K. So it's not so much undercharging, but you're just going to scale up how much you're charging, right?
Exactly
So
that.
I think that's an important thing to say, that you're hearing us talk about different prices here that might seem ludicrous. Harry talked about agencies charging up to 50 grand type money for projects. That is not to say that you are undercharging for doing a website for your stepmom for 500 quid or whatever, right? The point is that you are getting some kind of value back for the value you are providing whoever doing your first websites, right? And it might be a skill exchange, right? You might be like, you know what? I want to learn about marketing. You want a website. I'll design and build you a website. You teach me about marketing. That's still providing value. You're not doing the website for free because there is a value exchange there. So to answer your
Quick
question,
tip as
Lauren,
well.
yeah.
Oh, go on, Jack. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think it's really good to approach family and friends and say, look, I'm starting out in this. I will charge, I won't charge you a lot to do this because I want to build up my portfolio and my skill set. You know them, they trust you. You're more likely to get, your first jobs with those people. And no, you're not going to be charging them, loads. You're not going to be buying Ferrari with the money that they give you. However, they are going to give you experience, a portfolio, real projects under your belt rather than just fictitious ones. And I think that's a really, really solid way to start out. And then you've got 3 projects maybe in your portfolio website that then you can approach maybe agencies to work with, or other clients. So I would recommend that
Absolutely.
approach.
I totally agree. I think it's a great way to start out. The only thing I was going to add to that was that if you want to figure out pricing, come up with a fake company, like profile name, and then do what I did, which is just call up your competitors and say, hey, I have this company. I think mine was like a vape shop or something, some sort of tobacco shop. And I was like, I have this vape shop and I want to create an e-commerce website. How much is that going to cost me of your company? They'll probably give you a price on the phone. Write it down, do it for a couple of them, and that gives you an average price. And then just whatever project you're going for, the one that you're meant to be bidding for, just charge like around that, but maybe under it. As Jack said, like factor in the experience part. But that really helped me with like figuring out like what's the local economy kind of pricing and where's everybody at with that.
Yeah. And I'd also say that, Lauren, if you're just starting out, I know we're focusing a lot on Lauren. If anyone else wants to ask any questions, by the way, feel free. But if you're just starting out, Lauren, and maybe you are struggling to actually get your first clients, just making projects of things that you are super passionate about is going to be such a good way to get a really good idea of how long projects take, how Webflow works, maybe making something with animation, so you've got an idea of how animations work. And I think if you just do the process a few times, when you do have a client, you are going to be so much better at that client project, and you are going to be worth, frankly, a lot more. So you could charge more potentially by just doing some of those projects yourself. So as much as everyone bangs on about getting clients, which I appreciate, they pay you to do the creative work, which is obviously what we're all trying to do. But I would say if you're just starting out, right out the gate, I would recommend just finding something you're super passionate about: basketball, hockey, knitting, I don't know, plants, and just
Mhm.
making a passion project, I think is so valuable, because then you could send that to your family and friends and be like, hey guys, I'm starting out as a web designer. Here's a project that I've done most recently. Here's the type of thing that I can do for you. And you've got something that, might actually earn you paid work anyway.
Agreed. And if anybody's listening and they'd like some more advice, like you feel free to throw me a tweet on Twitter or LinkedIn message. I'd be happy to help out in any way I can with any questions you have. I'm sure the same's for you as well, Jack.
Don't message me. I hate men. No, I'm joking. Yeah, of course. No, I'm joking. Of course, you can message either of us. Harry, what are your socials? What should people reach you at, since you've just dropped that?
Sure. Okay. Thanks. So you can follow my YouTube journey where I vlog about growing an agency, systems, processes, and everything to do with that as well. Just look up Harry Roper on YouTube. There's a new video coming out tomorrow. Had a little bit of a break. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, it's Harry_Aldium. And then Harry Roper on LinkedIn as well. And then anything to do with the agency, it's Imaginary Space on all of the platforms. All over the shop. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll put your links in the chat here as we finish up. Final question for you, Harry. This is a question that will now be at the end of every Webflail podcast episode, so I'm excited to try it out with you. What are your next failures going to be?
Wow. What a great question. What a great question.
Thank you.
What are my next failures going to be? There's going to be so many, Jack. How do you answer that kind of question? I guess it would be my answer. Although I don't know because I can't see the future. I feel like my kind of realm and where I'm going now in my career, a lot of them are around like leadership. So leading a team, stuff like that. I know I'm probably going to fail a couple times as a leader as I learn more about managing a team and growing one and nurturing one. I could get like itty bitty and talk about like the sales campaigns we're doing or the client processes we're putting together and stuff like that and say that would be it. But I think definitely like leadership is my next thing to tackle. And there's probably going to be a hell of a load of failures there as well to learn from.
Fascinating. I'm excited to follow that journey on YouTube. And is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we wrap up this interview? Is there any last piece of advice that you'd like to give people?
Sure. I think if you aren't following the future on YouTube, you should. If you aren't subscribed to Jack, you should, because these talks are really interesting. And I think there's been a lot of cool stuff here. And I would just like to say that if you feel like lost or don't know where you're going, or you're looking for advice and expertise, and like you just want some help, I think the biggest thing that helped me at the beginning of my career and still right now is reaching out and asking people very direct questions about what they can learn. Go on Twitter. As I said, there's a great community of Webflowers on there as well as LinkedIn. And just be quite selfish. Like, go and ask for help and ask for people's opinions on stuff, and see if there's a way you can give back to the community as well in return for all the information that you're asking for. Yeah, as I said, if you have any questions at all, I'm an open book, so you're more than welcome to reach out, and I'll be one of those people you can ask questions to.
Yeah, that's great. 10% recommend reaching out to people that you want to be like, or have a skill set that you want more of, because most of the time people are very flattered to get a message in their DMs saying, hey, I love what you do, how do I do what you do? It might sound really, really weird in your head to be like, oh, shouldn't I reach out to this person? Do it. This is your calling card to say, just reach out. You've got nothing to lose and so much to gain. And I can attest to that, because I met Harry doing exactly that. I reached out and I said, hey, I want to know you. I want to know what you do and why you do it. And we had a call. And now we're doing another call. and I'm sure we'll stay in contact for life. So that's pretty cool. A lot of calls there. That was a homophone. Anyway, I'm rambling. We're going to end this interview now. Thank you so much for everyone who came and watched this live. The Webflail website is now live. I'm going to put it in the chat up here. So go and check that out. There will be loads of interesting articles, and the interview recordings will be there, as well as the biggest learnings from each recording. So it's well worth checking out. Go and check that out now if you've got a bit of time. Thanks
really
so much,
good.
Harry.
Sneak peek is very good. It's very good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So everyone, thank you so much for coming along to this episode. Harry, thank you for dropping your gems of wisdom. See you next week for episode number 6. Bye then, everyone.
Bye.